Okay. Hello, people, this week too. What we'll be discussing today is James P. Byrd, Scripture's Sacred War, the Biblical and American Revolution. Basically, focus on his chapter one, the Curse of Cowardice. Byrd, he's an associate professor of American religious history, associate dean for graduate education and research at Vanderbilt University, Divinity School, and Graduate Department of Religion. He also wrote books on other individuals like Paul Williams and James Edward, who are also, preachers and I think evangelists. Vanderbilt University, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, born and raised, and I know Vanderbilt University really well. Um, but in his chapter one, The Curse of Cowardness, Byrd basically explores how colonists use biblical texts to justify their actions in American revolutions. Many of the colonists seen the Bible uh, as a tool to use for war. They're seen as being as God playing a role that was decisive in the battlefield. Basically, this saw the Bible as being as a justification for the actions during the war that was going on against the British. Burt argued in the book that where he used examples that sermons were the most important tool for biblical interpretation. It was preached as appointed on holidays like Thanksgiving. And also, founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson seen as a political tool using biblical scriptures. Um, the problem that soldiers faced during the war was mostly recruitment and morale. Byrd seen sermons that gave colonists that it was important for them to have courage during the time when they fight. Sermon was seen as social acts which unite people into a force. It was also as a measure of salvation. Byrd mentioned about how historian Harry Stewart mentioned in 1776 that more sermons were preached than any previous year in New England history. Um, Congregationalist ministers preached over 2,000 sermons each week. Sermons were published at 4 times the rate of political pamphlets, which were influential during the war. Example was Thomas Paine. Common Sense was an example of a pamphlet that was really popular among colonists that really would justify the actions to fight against the British, where it was published in 1776. Paine Common Sense was seen as more as a sermon than a pamphlet that was filled with than a biblical references. It also argued that re- revival influenced the revolution. Revivalists, people like George Whitefield, who was viewed by Presbyterian minister Nathaniel Whitaker for his patriotism, and as he would mention, what was a patriot. He's seen as an enemy of tyranny. He basically was credited as being a contribution of the repeal of the Stamp Act, which some of the things that led up to the American Revolution. It was basically believed that sermons could be an inspiration to patriotism, since biblical preaching shaped virtue and patriotism could exist without virtue. So basically, what Byrd is getting to this book, and especially the first chapter, was just basically how colonists was using biblical scriptures just to, I see it as a time for comfort and basically to justify the actions during the American Revolution and the reason why they were fighting for freedom against the British. Um, it basically just have a sense of courage and all. So this was a pretty much example how the Bible was strongly influence many people during the American Revolution, including people like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, people like Thomas Paine. Religion played a very major role during the American Revolution to basically justify the actions when it was going to war, the war and stuff. It's like how I see it. I'm not trying to compare, and I could be wrong about this, but it's like similar to what Moses was free his people from Egypt, and basically he spoke to I think to say to God or something, and he used it. I think maybe it was a God willing thing to free his people. So I would see it kind of like colonists try to use the Bible, and it was I think maybe a God belief for them to get their freedom from the British, similar to how Moses get his people from Egypt. and that's the type of way how I look at it in a way, pretty much. But this is a very fascinating, interesting read right here, and it just said how the important religion was during the American Revolutionary War, and that's the really thing I really got from this. I hope you have a good day. Appreciate the time.